when I think about something that was a big change that happened because of interacting with something in the humanities, I have to think of the book Drumming at the Edge of Magic by Mickey Hart, which I got, I want to say for Christmas maybe when I was in 9th grade. So I was a passionate drummer and lover of music who had, that would be about 90 or 91, and to that point I had a very sort of formal and rigid understanding of music. I had done school band, where you read everything and play from the sheets, and I had a band director who always, everything was that way. In fact, before we would even hear the music, we would try to sight read it. So my concept of music was always paper to sound. It would seem so weird to me now to think of learning music from paper and then having it be sound as opposed to listening to it and then looking at the paper. But I carried that with me as I got into rock and roll. So, of course, fell in love with Rush and Yes and prog rock and stuff like that, and then really into metal, I think. And Justice for All by Metallica was a really big album for me at that time. But it was all these things where you would go see the band and they would perform the recording exactly like it was, right down to every little drum fill being exactly the same. So when I read Mickey Hart's book, it just kind of blew my mind open in the fact that there was this whole reasons to play music that had nothing to do with anything that I had ever thought of before. And it kind of broadly introduced me to music in all these other cultures, particularly the role of drums in all those other cultures, and to the idea of improvisation, and really to the spiritual power of improvisation, which was, it couldn't have been anything more foreign to me at that point. And so it just opened my mind to the idea that you could do so much more. And really, the format of that book, it's kind of a coffee table book, you know, but it's written, at the time he had gotten really into ethnomusicology, but not like most people who call themselves ethnomusicologists. He didn't go to a graduate program for it. He just did it. He just started finding drums. He would find a drum and then want to learn about it and try to find the master of that drum and track the person down. And, you know, he had this access as a member of the Grateful Dead. But he did that his whole life. I think that's such a cool thing. And the other big thing that book did for me is it introduced me to the word ethnomusicologist, which is a real big mouthful, but at the time, to learn that there was a field of expertise in the world where you learn about the music from different cultures and how it relates to people's lives was another just mind-expanding moment. So for me, that single book set me in two paths that are still, where, you know, it's over 20 years later, closer to 30 years later, and both of those paths that it set me on are the things that I do with my life. One is I'm still a drummer, and I play a lot of improvised music, whether it's rock or jazz, but improvisation became the reason that I wanted to play music. And then my professional life in education really is based on being an ethnomusicologist, because what we do as a Rock and Roll Forever Foundation is build curriculum that uses music to talk about everything. So it's music as culture. The quick and dirty explanation of ethnomusicology is music as culture, right? So we're looking at what music is as culture, how people use it. And so what we do at the foundation is music as social studies, music as history, music in science. And it's not about playing a song in your social studies class. It's about looking at how the music of a certain time period or a certain person reflects what the world looked like at that point, and the connections that you can make with time and place in music, and how really everything is culture. So that one book, Drumming at the Edge of Magic, really is my entry to all of those ideas, coming from being the guy at a Rush concert who's air drumming the fills exactly along to somebody who sees this like really 360-degree angle to everything musical. That's my big thing there.